Hello, VinWiki, Sway, Ed. Greetings from beautiful Key West, Florida. It's come to my attention that you have a well-loved and thoroughly enjoyed European vehicle that you are looking to rehome. And it just so happens that I also have a very thoroughly loved and enjoyed European vehicle that has served as my home for the last 10 months in 30 states. Fittingly so, at the time I purchased it, it was one of, if not the cheapest running examples in the US. But unfortunately, well, some things like warning lights in the dash or poor interior paint condition can be overlooked on a well-enjoyed vehicle. When you start to see things like metal shavings in the engine oil, like I recently have, you need to kind of reconsider what you're doing. And in my case, call into question if I'm going to make the rest of my 50-state conquest. So a bit of background on me. 5 years ago, I moved from Chicago to San Francisco for work and downgraded my space considerably from a 3-car garage to a 1-bedroom apartment with no parking. And I was only able to bring my pickup truck as a daily driver. Unfortunately, the truck was stolen not long after, and I was forced to consider what replacement vehicle I really wanted. And I wanted something that I could cruise the coast, enjoy the California roads and weather, but also something that wasn't too nice where I couldn't street park it in the city or worry about door dings or be concerned about when I beat on it, am I seriously devaluing the vehicle? And at that time, I happened upon a Craigslist posting for a 99 Porsche Boxster. It needed a bit of love, it needed some paint work, and using my Ed-like negotiating skills, I shrewdly negotiated it right down to probably the cheapest price I had seen at that point for a running driving Boxster. And, of course, naturally, shortly after, it needed 3 times that in repairs and clutch and overhauling the coolant system, but that's neither here nor there. After I made the repairs, it treated me okay, and we did track events together, and we got groceries, and we cruised the coast, all without fearing door dings. And, I absolutely fell in love with the car. However, going from a truck to a small 2-seater really leaves you with, kind of a desire for a little bit more room. So I was browsing the internet, and I happened upon a photo of another early generation Boxster wearing an extremely rare factory roof rack option. And at that point, it became my mission to have one of these things because they were just so cool. But they're discontinued, and Porsche made very few of them, and they're nearly impossible to come by. But I managed to track down a forum member who had some pieces for one, and then later I tracked down another forum member who had some other pieces, and I have a bit of SolidWorks CAD experience, so I was able to recreate and then machine the other pieces that I needed. So now I have a full Porsche, mostly factory roof rack for the car. But right around this time, COVID had hit and everyone was on lockdown, and with that comes a lot of stress, anxiety, restlessness, and in my case, a fair amount of existentialism. And to be honest, it hit me super hard. I felt trapped in the house. Felt like I was paying all this rent just to sit in this little box, and I was getting restless, and I was reconsidering things in my life, like where do I want to be and why am I here? And around that time, I had seen some people putting like tents on their sports cars. And so in one of those really tough moments, I just kind of said, screw it. I went and I got myself a Yakima Skyrise tent, and I donated almost all of my stuff. I threw the rest of it in the car, and I gave my landlord notice. And I didn't have a set goal. I just knew I needed to kind of get out of there, and I knew I wanted to consider living in other places before. And so I made a list of cities and states, and with the car and the tent and my stuff, I just started driving and staying a little bit of time in each place that I was curious about, and then moving on to the next one. And the tent worked amazing in national parks and like sparsely populated areas. And then in the major metros where that's a little tough, maybe a little sketchy, hotels work just as well. And by this point, the car pretty much was my home. It was the only thing I had. And slowly over the last 9 or 10 months of staying on the road constantly and driving more and more, it's been roughly 35,000 miles. And I've wound up living out of this Porsche for 30 states now. And it's been awesome. I won't lie to you and say that it's not without challenges. Certainly there have been some like naked freezing nights in the desert, bathing with like jugs of water, right? Because there's nothing around. And But for the most part, living out of the Boxster has become oddly and naturally kind of part of who I am. And the car itself, even with a tent on it, is still driven exactly how it should be. It sees plenty of dirt roads. It sees plenty of gravel roads. It does big, gnarly, tent-equipped donuts. And all in all, has kind of been a dream all-around machine for me. And I've also come to appreciate the car, but my freedom to travel so much. And other people seem to run it too that I encounter. It gets a ton of attention, a lot more with the tent on it. But now that it's colder, I've moved to a larger rooftop box, and I try to stick to the warmer states and hotels like this one to keep it warm. But unfortunately, as I mentioned, the engine in the Porsche just isn't long for this world. We were doing an oil change not too long ago, and we found quite a bit of metallic flake. So I think it's a pretty clear indicator that something else needs to happen here at some point. So you're looking for a home for your thoroughly loved, thoroughly enjoyed European car, and I'm looking for a home to put a big roof tent on or a big box and kind of finish my 50-state journey. And I think with a little bit of love to get the convertible top going and some of my fabrication skills, we can get a roof rack on there and get it going pretty quick. I have some ideas for some A-pillar mounts already, and I think it could be a real win. You'd also have my guarantee to update you along the way. I'm no social media influencer, as you can see, and I'm sure there are plenty of people who will submit amazing videos. But my journey has been reasonably well documented so far on Instagram. And perhaps more importantly than that, though, you would have my guarantee that the car would be driven how a car like this should be driven. Not sitting in someone's collection, but having someone flog on it and appreciate it across the country, in new places, exploring sideways down sketchy dirt roads with a big-ass tent on it. So when you're ready to take me up on it, this is how I'd use the world's cheapest Lambo.